Have you let it get you yet? People there are saying, how bad's it gonna get? And I've been calling to the sky, please don't let more bullets fly. Have you heard the talk of the cities and the towns? There's a fear from the inside and the toil all around. I've been hoping for my help, find the cure to cure myself. In these times of struggle, you can hear the children cry. Hello, my, I'm weary.
Hello, and welcome to Critical Mass TV, the grassroots variety program that is more reality check than reality show. And first of all, I want to thank Jeremy Harple and the Aerolites for the use of the song, Have You Read the News? It's a fantastic song. And I know the Aerolites are going to be in town at Nectar's October 11th at 11 p.m. So you got to check out the Aerolites. So critical mass, in a user-friendly sense, means the fewest number of people required to change the world. So let's make it happen. The many splendid opinions I express on each show are mine and do not necessarily represent the opinions of the guests or the station, even though they should. We have 3 segments tonight, starting with Eye on the Greed Cult, my running commentary on the world and how we can improve it for the 99% of us working people. Second, we have Art Break with Kathy, highlighting the bounty of work by creative Vermonters. And Art Break is followed by Voices Vermont, an intriguing look at the active work of local groups and individuals working for positive change. Let's open the eye. Remember, this is a live show, and you can always call 802-651-0589 to make a comment or ask a question, or just call and say hi. The whole point of this show is to bring to light realities, ideas, and concepts that the corporate media and corporate-owned politicians refuse to tell you about. We'll be nice and just say they are too afraid to speak truth to power. Last time, I mentioned that we will be delving into globalism, free trade, and trade agreements tonight. The latest of which is such a mind-blower that only criminal negligence can explain the fact that we have heard next to nothing about it from our trusted leaders. It's called the TPP, or Trans-Pacific Partnership, and more on this a little bit later. Global trade in the modern era has its roots in the demand for luxury goods by aristocratic Europeans. The Roman Empire developed complex systems to bring raw materials and minerals and perishables back to Rome from its far-flung territories. Europe's dynastic kings and their cronies, after feeding off of each other for centuries, rediscovered the joy of scarce luxury items, and the Silk Road from the Far East to Europe brought tremendous wealth and fortune until Constantinople, which is modern Istanbul, Turkey, was finally conquered in the 15th century, which effectively ended the Silk Road. There was no way to get to the continent of Europe from Asia by land. So began the era of the transoceanic merchant fleet and royal navies. The lust for exotic spices, fabrics, and gold was so intense that no population was too big to slaughter, no country too big to invade, and no violence too great to bring even on one's royal competitors from other European nations. Suffice it to say that private companies like the British East India Company and the Dutch East India Company even owned and ran entire countries like India and Indonesia using private armies and extreme force to extract everything they could. These companies had royal charters of incorporation from the king of the particular country, and they would be some of the modern world's first corporations. The Spanish and the Portuguese were also big players and fought each other, as well as the East India companies, in their world domination quests. There's so much interesting history here that I recommend some research on one's own, but let's sum up this intro to free trade by saying that forcing thousands of tons of Indian opium on the Chinese and the entire massive international slave trade were all seen as just business as usual by the elites of their day. It is ironic that private wealth controlled the colonies originally, and only when it became expedient for the super rich to build large state armies and navies did they cede this role to government. This retelling of early globalism is a nice segue into a discussion of the GATT, which is the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, the WTO, or the World Trade Organization, NAFTA, which everyone has heard of, which is the North American Free Trade Agreement, and free trade agreements generally, which are known as FTAs. Of course, free trade is a propaganda term, and this type of trade is actually the most restrictive on earth. The dollar amounts required to have foreign factories and shipping fleets, not to mention the U.S. military and intelligence services at your beck and call, are prohibitive, to say the least. This highly restrictive free trade is not free and is only possible with massive computerization and huge subsidies from the middle class who pay most of the bills and, ironically, buy most of the cheap plastic crap, and the class that loses most of the jobs. One of the pillars of neoliberalism, which we have discussed in a previous show, and we will discuss again, one of the pillars of neoliberalism, free trade, is seen as essential in the never-ending quest by big business to dominate the world. Fair trade would imply a democratically designed system where people trade goods and services based on what works regionally. Let's explore a bit more the contrast that is free trade, in quotes. Remember, I guess a couple reminders that are important to speak here. So remember, any reference to what the American people, also in quotes, what the American people want is the propaganda term usually for big businesses' needs. It usually has nothing to do with what the American people want, because how would anyone know? Nobody ever asks them anything. The greatest meaningful threat to our national security, and I mean the greatest meaningful threat to our actual national security, is being sold out from within by the billionaires that own the society. It is not the threat from some tiny external enemy. The intent of free trade agreements is the unfettering of capital. The ability to exploit cheap labor, lax regulation, and corrupt local officials to maximize profits for the mothership. Restrictions on the financial services industry, banks, are eliminated. Import and export duties and tariffs to protect local economies and workers are almost extinct. And in our U.S. Constitution, duties and tariffs by the original Constitution were the only way that the federal government of the United States was supposed to be funded. There was no reference to an income tax. So in all FTAs, free trade agreements, and the World Trade Organization doctrine, capital is no longer restricted by political boundaries. It can zip around anywhere to increase its exploitive behavior, but these political boundaries, and I mean the borders between countries, they are maintained to keep workers from being able to move to exploit higher wages in, say, another region. So the political boundaries that used to be used to protect our economies now are erased for capital and private corporations and wealth. And the political boundaries are only there now to maintain people's movement. So workers will never be allowed to move around, say, to a country that either has better working conditions or higher wages, et cetera. It's important to remember that. So wages in industrialized countries are pulled down relentlessly by exposure to virtual slave labor overseas, which is known as downward wage pressure. Speaking of national security, is it good planning to borrow trillions of dollars from totalitarian communist banks and move all one's manufacturing industries to the same totalitarian nation? How dangerous is it to lose millions of high-quality jobs and replace them with what? Minimum wage service jobs? Putting the little guy face on the big business agenda, that is something that I bring up all the time. But you really have to beware the arguments that you hear on corporate media, and I mean every major newspaper, every major TV network. One of the easiest tactics to trick people is to shape the argument that would benefit big business by putting a little guy's face on it or a little girl's face on it so we can relate to it. And who wouldn't agree with free trade? I mean, just the name of it rings, like Mom, America, and apple pie. So to even disagree with free trade, you have to be nuts. So please be aware of that. So remember the dynamic. Never has so much money been generated annually. Never in the history of the world has so much wealth been generated. The Dow Jones Industrial Average had never been over 2,000 when Clinton was president in the early 90s. And now the Dow Jones is over 15,000 points regularly, and which means a massive volume increase in the total number of shares and the total amount of money that's being exchanged. Where did all that wealth come from that's now in the stock market? So never have corporate profits been high, been this high, and never have there been so many billionaires. Wages are down for workers since 1970, consistently down year to year or flat. Personal debt has never been so high. Foreclosures have never been so high. Student debt is over $1 trillion. And just a little interesting side note, the federal government of the U.S. made $48 billion last year from offering student loans. So they made $48 billion in profit last year. And this actually is greater than the profits of ExxonMobil, and I mean the reported profits, which were $46 billion. Interesting that there's that much money to be made in writing student loans. So the TPP is the latest free trade agreement being pushed hard by corporate America, with the entire wish list of the 1% represented. If enacted, it will offshore millions more American jobs, free Wall Street from its already marginal oversight. It will ban Buy American and Buy Local policies needed to create green jobs and rebuild our economy. It will decrease access to medicine. It will flood the U.S. with unsafe food and products, and it will empower corporations to attack our entire regulatory structure, including environmental, safety, and health. It will create offshore tribunals run by corporate lawyers, only designed to replace political systems and any semblance of local control of the economy. We'll talk a little bit more about these corporate tribunals later. They will be the judge and jury in these very large trade disputes that do happen between industries and their supposedly host countries. So closed-door, super-secret talks are ongoing between the U.S. and Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, Malaysia, and Vietnam, with others, including China, probably joining later. 600 corporate representatives are doing all of the negotiating for the U.S., while the public, Congress, and investigative journalists are all completely excluded. They have no legal access to any of the debate, any of the draft copies of the trade agreement, nothing. Even Congress has had to sue to have several chapters, draft chapters, released. So leaked chapters show unbelievably scary scenarios. Under the TPP, foreign corporations gain unprecedented powers. Rights to buy land, resources, and factories without any review, even strategic review or security review. All risks and costs of offshoring jobs are eliminated. Special guaranteed preferential treatment for relocating firms. Compensation for loss of expected future profits. Just run that around in your head a little bit. Compensation for loss of expected future profits for any health, labor, or environmental laws that exist or are passed in the future. They're called regulatory takings compensation. The rights to move capital without limits are enhanced. Establish new rights to cover investment, intellectual property, permits, and derivatives. Ban the concept of corporations' requirement to serve the public interest and remove all references to the same. Any move by a state or local government to pass laws permitting GMO-free labels or hormone-free, Buy American, or anything similar are banned under this regime. U.S. multinationals' desire for the TPP is to impose extreme foreign investor privileges and rights, and that's in quotes. Private enforcement through the notorious investor state system. This system elevates private corporations from their status as people to an equal or dominant standing with the countries that sign the TPP. So GE or ADM or Archer Daniels Midland would be as powerful legally as the government of Canada or New Zealand or the United States. What's next? Absolute corporate takeover and removal of representative government would seem the logical next step. They are now going to be rendered impotent anyways. So under this regime, foreign investors can skirt domestic courts and laws and sue governments directly before offshore tribunals of 3 corporate lawyers operating under World Bank rules to demand taxpayer compensation for any domestic law that investors feel will reduce their expected future profits. Over $3 billion has been paid to foreign investors under U.S. trade and investment pacts, while over $14 billion in claims are pending under these deals, primarily targeting environmental, energy, and public health laws. The TPP nations must open their treasuries, and I mean their treasuries, to the authority of these corporate tribunals, and cash will be paid from our treasury directly to the corporation. you understand that they will have direct access to the U.S. Treasury. You also understand that corporations now pay next to no income taxes and contribute little to the Treasury. So who pays? Oh yeah, it's the middle muddled class that has no representation and is already getting soaked. So SOPA and PIPA, which the Stop Online Piracy Act and the Protect IP Act are back and turbocharged. So they did not go away with the activism in the past that really helped, even a lot of major internet companies helped to bring to light the issues and the conflicts of interest in SOPA and PIPA. So I have a phone call, and I'm going to get that. Hello, how are you doing tonight? Okay, I guess that answers that. So almost, good try. So SOPA and PIPA are back turbocharged with nothing being available free. And everything considered piracy that is used without paying a fee, and even things like open source Linux banned. ISPs will be forced to do a 3 strikes and you're out rule for customers visiting sites that are whatever, determined to be suspect or whatever. And then individual users can be personally banned after those 3 strikes. Financial deregulation. Worldwide, the call from responsible people is for more regulation of banks and the financial sector after they plunged us into recession with casino-like binging after years, for the crisis of 2007 and 2008. So I'm going to have to get back to the rest of the trade agreement talk a little bit later. Right now, it is time for Art Break and Kathy Hartley. So I will be back in a few minutes, too, after that with Allie Johnson-Kurtz from 350vt.org.
Hi there, and welcome to Art Break. My guest today is Kathy Mitchell. She's an artist, and Kathy does paintings and makes incredible jewelry. She's done Adirondack furniture, and she paints beautiful gourds too. She does amazing paintings on gourds. Today, she has brought us a lot of gorgeous jewelry and some of her paintings. So, welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is fun. We're going to talk about your jewelry mostly today. So let's just start at one end and kind of work our way through. Actually, let's talk a little bit about how you got started.
Okay. I've been doing silver jewelry. Well, actually, I started in copper jewelry since '74.
Okay.
I started with electrical wiring, and I made arthritis bracelets.
You had to like strip the wiring?
Strip the insulation off the wiring and make bracelets and rings for people that had arthritis. So
Right.
I did that for a few years and then dared to buy some silver. And that was what clinched it for me. I'm always going to be working with silver. And
Silver's beautiful.
I found it to be much easier to work with. It was, lower melting point, and it was easier to form. So
And you're self-taught pretty much?
self-taught, yep. I start everything with wire or sheet metal in various gauges,
Right,
and so it's from raw materials.
right. And how did you learn how to do the soldering and that kind of thing?
My father taught me how to solder with a propane torch, one of the bottles that you buy that plumbers use.
Right.
And it was quite hefty, and but I worked with it.
Yeah.
And then
That's what you
graduated.
had.
Right. Graduated to oxygen and acetylene tanks, which is again much easier. It's more pinpointed. The torch is tiny, and it's more efficient. So
Much easier.
yeah.
And then it just, things evolved.
Right. And I like to combine metals. Some of them are copper, some are brass, some are
Okay.
sterling silver.
Well, let's start with this one right here. So you have, you pound the
Right.
designs.
Most of the designs that in this piece are stamped, and there are probably 60 different moves with a handheld stamp. All the tools are handheld.
Nice.
So combining different
Gorgeous.
stamps
Right.
makes a pattern.
This has sort of a Native
This-
American pattern.
Yeah,
the
it's a bear paw,
Mhm.
and it's actually on ivory, an old piano key, which is another thing that I've started, which is new. Someone gave me ivory piano keys from a 100-year-old piano that came out of the North Ferrisburg Church.
Oh, how interesting.
So it was played in the church for however many years, and then it went through a couple of families, and it was going to be burned. So I
Ooh.
salvaged the material.
Right, and it has so much character.
And these are scrimshaw pieces.
And so you're scrimshawing all this on
right.
here.
Scrimshaw is etching the surface with a very fine needle or pin, and then rubbing paint or pigments in.
Here's more scrimshaw pieces.
And you can do very fine, detailed artwork
Yeah.
just by scratching the surface, polishing
Here's
it.
more. Beautiful.
Yeah, some of these are mandalas I like to do.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Change the shape of the key, but you can see the size of the keys are actually, this was the piano, the playing part of the piano.
Right. So okay.
So
Let's move on to this one right here. Then we can see
this is
the
a
whole-
lotus
the whole
flower.
piano key.
Yeah, that's the whole key, and
Right.
it's polished highly and then etched, and then I combine it with many different
Oh,
beads.
that's just beautiful.
And it's backed with a brass, this piece is.
Oh, this has brass on the back.
So it kind of highlights the
Right.
white of the
Right.
ivory.
Gorgeous. Let's look at this one here.
This one's kind of a modern, contemporary design. It has copper around the edge and sterling in the middle, and it is held with leather here,
Yeah,
black leather.
leather strap, leather necklace. This one is another one.
That one's a tooled piece as well. It has different stamped markings.
Right. Do they mean anything, or are they just?
This one does mean it's a shield, a Native American shield.
Ooh, neat.
4 directions, honoring the 4 directions.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Good path.
The,
This
the north, south,
centerpiece.
east, west directions. Yep. I love that.
Um,
And whoa, this
this
one's
was a-
almost like a gyroscope. Or
Yeah,
something.
it's kind of like the
This is
abacus.
great. I love this.
These are moving parts in the middle.
Yes, that's great. Like a little abacus, right? You can do your math on that.
Right.
And let's see, did we do this one yet?
This one is mother of pearl at the bottom. The big is a
Right.
donut.
Which
they
you cut
call it.
yourself?
No, I didn't.
No?
I
Okay.
ordered beads from different companies.
Okay,
and
yeah.
buy them at shows.
Right.
And,
Let's see if I can get this straight. Yep. Okay, gorgeous. I
And-
love that. I love the moving parts.
yeah,
That's neat. Here's another scrimshaw piece.
this is a bird with a blue ribbon, holding a blue ribbon.
Right.
And
Oh,
it's
that's
held with blue leather.
Oh, I love that.
It's very simple and yet
And yet very complicated because it's
Yes.
scrimshaw. You have to make little tiny scratches,
very tiny,
basically.
little
and,
scratches.
And this is on a piano key also.
on a piano key.
Ivory, pieces of ivory. This is absolutely stunning.
This is an old tree with a full moon
Ooh, that's
on ivory,
beautiful.
which has a dome top.
Oh, I love
I don't know if you can see it, but the brass has pierced stars,
Right.
the backing,
Yeah.
and then these are full moon,
Oh, that's
dangles.
gorgeous.
and then it's strung with.
It's beautiful.
Kind
It's
of
almost
golden beads.
architectural.
It is kind of
Right.
architectural.
It's
yeah.
gorgeous. I can't
And
reach
this-
over there, so you can.
This is
Favorite one.
a great blue heron.
With a little fish on the bottom.
holding a fish.
It's so beautiful.
And you can see that it has a very high shine, the surface of the ivory.
Right?
The back is brass
Yep.
with a
Nice.
natural patina, which makes it look a little bit older.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
Um,
Must be hard
so-
to decide what kind of necklace to put with each
Yeah.
one.
I mean, I try to make varying lengths and styles.
Mm-hmm.
This here is a peacock feather.
Oh, that's
I have
beautiful.
peacocks at home.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and I gather the feathers. This is a model of the feather of one of the peacocks.
Oh, that's very beautiful.
It's a brown
Peacocks
feather.
are gorgeous.
Yeah, and this is on ivory with silver on the back.
Oh, that's, yeah, silver, yeah.
a little bit different.
So the silver kind of makes them more valuable as a
It
piece
does.
of jewelry? Yeah.
It increases the value.
Mhm.
I do some with brass just to make it a range for pricing, more affordable.
Right.
This
Ooh.
piece here is set in silver and
Mhm.
actually has a bezel setting.
Oh, right. That
so
is gorgeous.
A bezel is a cup that goes around and holds a piece of ivory.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference between the sizes of ivory. This is actually the narrow part of the key that comes down. The part that you play
Right.
is this size here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the neck part. But this has a horse.
See. Oh, you can use the neck part.
can use
Oh,
the neck
that's
part.
Great.
And this has some stampings. Once again, the stamps on this are moved. Each one of these is a little triangle, and it's moved each time.
Nice.
So
What a lot of
I don't know,
work.
there's probably 80 times to move that.
Just hours and hours and hours of work in each piece.
And this is a sample of brass
Oh,
earrings.
beautiful.
Once again, this is a design that is symbolic of 4 directions
Oh,
and a good path to travel.
It's beautiful.
And these are
Flowers?
copper flowers, which have a patina that is created by flame, the flame of the torch moving across the flower.
Mm-hmm.
And these are all stamped by hand with, some of the tools are handmade that I have made myself.
Wow, you make your own tools.
They're kind of primitive, but
Mhm.
they work,
Well,
and
yeah.
they do a great job.
Yep. Yeah, very
This is
innovative.
another little tiny piece of ivory on a necklace. I make these for Mother's Day. These are a good thing to give for
that's
mom.
beautiful.
Has a little nest with, you can put 1 or 2 eggs in it, to symbolize
that's a
your
great
children.
idea. Yeah, symbolizing how many children you have.
And this is a fish.
Oh, scrimshaw fascinates me because it is so detailed. It is so tiny, and I
It's
know
a-
you have to have magnification
Yes.
and good lighting.
Yeah, I work with magnifying glasses. This is a full moon,
Oh, nice.
a full moon piece.
Beautiful. Look at that face. That's just gorgeous. Wow.
Thank you.
I know what I'm going to ask for Christmas.
And flowers. I sometimes take patterns from old china, pieces
Oh,
of
what a good idea.
china that's been broken, or wallpaper.
Right?
Wallpaper has great old Victorian patterns.
Yep.
I love to
does.
do botanicals
That's a great idea.
in different colors.
Yeah. Nice.
And this is one of my favorites too. It's very tiny. It's a turquoise beetle. I like to do insects.
And it's in turquoise.
And it is colored in turquoise.
Beetles are interesting creatures.
Yes.
They have cool shapes. That's
so I use
beautiful.
different chains to. People have different tastes. So,
Right?
and then this is a bracelet here. This is a way that I can use. It's kind of a contemporary style again, but it's a way that I use scraps. I can
Gorgeous.
combine different shapes. So I use everything. And
Yep.
what I
You
don't
have
use.
to. The materials are expensive.
They are. Yeah.
And here's one more piece. And this is a necklace, a choker, sort of a choker.
That's a choker.
I love the piece of jewelry. I love the sort of the orb shapes.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice.
It's on leather, sterling silver.
Beautiful.
So this is something that's kept my interest since '74. I have a book that I keep of designs, and sometimes the best time for me is in the morning when I'm sitting down for coffee
Right.
to jot down some ideas.
Oh, what a
and
great idea.
so I fill those books up, and this is
Well,
what I make with it.
And you have a lot
Patterns.
of stuff, and you have things in galleries.
I have things in galleries. This jewelry is shown in 4 different places, one being Creative Space Gallery,
Right,
In
Creative Space
Vergennes.
Gallery and Art on Main,
Art on Main in Bristol.
Bristol, okay.
Wait-
Brandon Artists Guild
Yes.
on Center Street,
Mm-hmm.
and Artisans Gallery on Bridge Street in Waitsfield.
In Waitsfield.
All of those galleries are awesome, and
They're all very
I've
nice.
probably seen your jewelry in there and been fascinated by it.
Yes, there are many creative people, very talented people in the area.
Yeah.
Vermont
Wow,
is filled with talented people.
Very neat. Well, and you also paint.
I do paintings.
So let's look at some of your
Okay.
paintings. All right. Can I pull one out
Sure.
here? All right. Let's see here what we have. Oh, horses.
Some of these paintings are in the Creative Space Gallery in Vergennes. That's the
Right.
only place that I have the paintings out right now.
Right. Okay.
This is a painting of two riders. It's called The Other Camp, and I don't know if you can see across the lake, there's a smoke from another camp.
Right. Let me get it so it's not shiny.
And this is an oil on canvas.
Oh, that's just beautiful. It has so much feeling in it.
Yeah.
Kind of serene.
I'm inspired by nature.
Yep. And let's look at another one. Oh, what is this?
This is called Beach Nest.
Beach nest. And this is a nest of eggs. You like the eggs?
Nest of eggs, yeah.
That's a great subject.
Shells, you'll see the shells around and on the edge. It's called a gallery,
yeah, look at
gallery
that.
edge.
Right?
So that's another Mother's Day thing with eggs,
Yes,
the children.
Right, right. It's a great idea. Fascinating idea. Ooh, the apple. Good
Apple.
time of year to have an apple. And yeah, let's move this right up front here. Oh yeah.
There you
Look
go.
at that blue. It's beautiful. I love the shadow. The
It's a
apple looks like you
miniature.
could bite right into it.
I love working with doing little paintings on small canvases.
Right?
Um,
Yeah. They're probably a little more affordable for people.
yes.
And they're fun to do. That's a great apple. Makes me hungry. And a portrait.
A portrait,
It's a
small,
beautiful portrait.
another miniature.
Another miniature, yeah.
Had a chance to go to South Africa.
Really?
And I actually brought back beads to work with for jewelry and took many pictures. And I like to work from photographs, I guess, when I'm traveling.
This is a
Can't
beautiful face.
Take paintings with you, paint with you.
Yeah. Very nice. I love this painting. And,
And here's a still life.
oh, that's gorgeous.
That's an oil.
Mm-hmm. See if we can get this
It's
without
kind of-
the shine here. Oils are a little bit shiny.
Yeah.
There you go. You can
glaze.
kind of see that. Oh, that's just unbelievable. Looks like an old master's
Thank you.
painting. It's beautiful. I love it. The picture looks real. I mean, that's just gorgeous.
And here's the last
Okay.
one that I brought. This
All
is
right. Oh,
this
this
is,
is neat.
yeah,
What is this?
it's my chicken coop at night in the winter.
Oh, look at that.
It's,
It's glowing.
the girls are in there
Yeah.
going to bed.
It looks just like it, too.
Yeah, it's kind of a soft.
Looks like you want to just walk up to them and say goodnight. That's beautiful, Kathy.
Thank you very much.
Very nice. Very nice work. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been really fun, and I appreciate
Yes.
you so much for coming in and bringing us your gorgeous stuff. You can contact Kathy. She's has a website, and it is www.kathymitchellstudio.com. And you can, if you would like to be a guest on my show, you can contact me at artbreakvermont@gmail.com, and that is artbreakvt@gmail.com. And contact me or contact Kathy if you love her beautiful work and would like to purchase anything or see anything, and she can hook you up. And I'd love to hear from you. if you'd like to be a guest on my show, we can promote your work. I'd love to hear from all you creative people. So thank you very much, and thank you, Kathy.
Thanks for inviting me.
Brad has a wonderful guest coming right up in 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you read the news? Have you let it get you yet? People there are saying how bad you're gonna get. And I've been calling to the sky, please don't let more bullets fly. Have you heard the talk of the cities and the towns? There's a fear from the inside and the coil all around. I've been hoping for my help, find a cure to calm myself. In these times of struggle, you can hear the children cry. Hello, I'm weary. These are troubled times indeed. In all honesty, I fear thee. Uncle Sammy leads idiocracy. Never was one to keep the peace. Have you lost all hope for peace across the land? Nothing's gonna get done unless we take a stand. And there's a madman on the shelf, living dreams I live in hell. The generation now be the generation then. We'll be then if we stand still for the next 5 to 10. And I can't sleep at night or dream. Reality ain't always seen. In these times of struggle, you can hear the children cry. Hello, Ma, I'm weary. These are troubled times indeed.
Hey, welcome back, and thank you for being patient with us. My guest today on Voices VT is Allie Johnson-Kurtz, and she is the State Pension Divestment Organizer for 350VT.org. And welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
Glad to have you here. So let's talk a little bit about, just in case anybody has been under a rock for a couple of years and has not heard of 350.org or 350VT.org. Can you explain to us just what the organization is and does?
Sure. 350 is a movement. It's an environmental movement that was started by Bill McKibben, and it's a network organization. So we work with groups around the state and around the country and even internationally now on issues of climate justice and environmentalism.
Okay.
And 350, that number is parts per million of carbon dioxide that we can have in the atmosphere and safely.
Right. So the 350 is the parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere, and anything below that is relatively safe, but if we go beyond that point, it becomes dangerous for heating the climate.
That's correct.
Okay, I gotcha. So that's the threshold point.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Allie, I wanted to ask you, like, just you personally, how did you become interested in environmentalism in the first place, but it's, more specifically, climate change and 350VT.org?
Sure. So I grew up here in Vermont, and my parents instilled in me from the start interest in stewardship for the land and the water. So that was how I got started. I was involved in high school with the U32 Green Team, and then in college I'm at Smith College and working on the divestment campaign there to divest the college endowment. There are over 300 colleges right now that are working on divesting their endowments. And from there I got involved with 350 working because they're running the college endowment divestment movement, and got in touch with heard about a fellowship that 350 was offering, fossil-free fellowship. And so applied for that for the summer, and got the fellowship, got placed with 350 Vermont, and was working on the state pension fund. Yeah, so my position has continued into the fall, and I'm actually taking a year off from school to work on the divesting the Vermont state pension.
Wow, you are motivated. So I have a couple other questions about that, but let's just continue on with the basics of. Just a simple question would be, why should Americans and people worldwide be concerned with climate change?
Yeah, so we're really seeing the effects of climate change now. Vermonters saw Hurricane Irene and the devastation of Hurricane Irene, and it's undeniable that these storms are coming more frequently and are just becoming more and more devastating. So we need to be concerned about this issue because it's going to affect us economically, and it's going to affect our land and our ability to continue to live on the planet.
Right, because it's not just like you could make an argument that like Superstorm Sandy or the recent like monsoonal rains in Colorado could be climate driven, but also isn't there like the food belts, like grain belts or agricultural belts around the world, they rely on certain very specific temperatures for us to be able to grow food crops, say in the Midwestern United States. And if it gets too hot, even some of those agricultural belts have to shift or disappear.
I mean, we've been seeing the incredible droughts in the Midwest. It's all interconnected with the torrential rain in some places and the droughts in others, the wildfires. These are all connected, and we're seeing a pattern of increasing severity of all of these issues.
Right.
And it's climate driven, it's human driven, and we need to be concerned about it and look to make some changes in both the way we live our lives and in the systems that we've set up.
You've made an important point, though, that people run around and dance around politically, not so much the scientific community, but the human-generated aspect of the change. It's not volcanoes, and it's not just, a natural climate shift. It's 99.99% sure that it's human-generated carbon.
Climate scientists agree. It's
okay.
human generated, and so we need to make some changes to preserve our planet.
It is obvious if you're honest about the issue, and so let's talk a little bit. I'm really interested in just the divestment strategy. You're talking about a college's endowments or the state pension fund.
Yep.
Those are quite large amounts of money that these institutions have, aren't they?
They are, yeah. The state of Vermont has around $4 billion right now in the pension fund, $3.8 billion invested. And divestment, the main ask in divestment, what we're really looking to do is divest from the top 200 fossil fuel companies. And there's an organization called Carbon Tracker who's identified these top 200 companies. And the state of Vermont has about 40 million, almost on the dot, $40 million. So it's about 1% of our total pension that's invested in these top 200 fossil fuel companies.
Right, which would be the biggest contributing to carbon footprint, larger than other companies.
Yeah, and why we're really targeting these top 200 companies is because we're looking to chip away at their lobbying power, and by pulling money, even as a symbolic move, it puts these companies into the line of fire for questioning about their business plan. And the issue is that these companies have 5 times the amount of carbon in their reserves as we can safely burn. And
5 times.
5 times as we can safely burn and have a planet that looks anything like what we're living on today. And unfortunately, the stock price of these companies is leveraged against these reserves that we cannot burn. And so there's what's called a carbon bubble. Just as we saw the housing bubble, there's a carbon bubble because these reserves can't be burned.
Right.
And so the divestment tactic is really to put that business plan to burn that carbon into question and to chip away at these companies' lobbying power.
Right. So just awareness amongst shareholders and just the public in general. There's nothing that a large corporation understands more than the financial aspects of a situation and its economic equation. So if money is being pulled out for political reasons, they will get that.
Yeah.
Because the money is a major flag waving in front of them, and so it could possibly have an effect, and they will react.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping.
Yeah, good. I mean, I think it's a very clever strategy. And so, do you know of situations where divestment, you could, if you're trying to sell it to a manager somewhere, do you have success stories where divestment has worked in the past?
Yeah, I mean, we saw in South Africa during the 80s the divestment from the apartheid movement. The state of Vermont also divested from big tobacco. And so those are two examples of divestment having worked in the past as a strategy.
For the state of Vermont, even in its college system, and was that the state pension fund also that divested from big tobacco?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's. I mean, yeah, you could say that was very successful then.
Yep.
As a strategy.
Yeah, with apartheid especially, we saw the apartheid system fall, and that was largely due to folks pulling their money out of that system.
There was tremendous resistance to even something that's such a glaring, almost Nazi-like system of, and a dehumanized attitude of a whole entire population, and based on race primarily and economic status. But I remember that issue, and people, managers, and the chancellor of the university systems and whatnot were highly resistant to divesting there, even over those issues.
Yeah, we just got the no from Middlebury College. The folks in the administration there have just written a letter to the students that they will not be divesting. But I've heard a friend who works for 350.org wrote a great article about why no is actually a heartening answer, because it's the first step to getting the yes. You have to get the no before you get the yes, and if you're not getting the no, then you're not asking for enough.
No, I get that. I understand that. And one minor setback, is not the end of a strategy. They can be reached, and they respond to pressure.
Yep. And right now it's about escalating. It's about building power. It's about getting more people involved, and that's where we're at with the Vermont state pension divestment as well. It's looking for people to sign on letters that we have. You can find those on our website, 350vt.org/divestment. You can find those and sign on, especially if you're a teacher, a state employee, or a municipal employee. You are the recipients of the pension fund, and so we're looking to you to actually call on your representatives on the Vermont Pension Investment Committee to divest. So.
They will respond to that pressure. It just takes a certain number, and you get the critical mass.
Critical mass.
That I like to talk about. So let's see, what else have I got here for a prepared question? So can folks get involved with the state pension fund divestment campaign? And I think you were just addressing that.
Yeah.
But are there, say you are not a state employee and you're not going to benefit from the pension fund, what can just an average person do?
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. I am actually doing a tabling training with Sonia Krakoff, who also works for 350 Vermont and on the college endowment issue. And we are going to be holding a tabling training this coming Wednesday, 7 p.m. at the 350 Vermont office. It's 255 South Champlain here in Burlington. There'll be some food, and we will be helping people learn how to table more effectively and how to reach out to people. And we're going to be looking for folks to table during New Economy Week, which is October 10th through 20th. And there are going to be events across the state for that. And so we're looking for folks who can work at a 350 Vermont table and talk to people about divestment, and we have materials at the office, so we're going to be asking folks to help disperse those and talk about the issue. So this Wednesday, 350 Vermont office is one way to get involved. Through tabling, yeah.
Right, for a class or however you
Yeah, at an event, so just setting up a table like this, putting out
Right.
your materials, and talking to folks who are coming to the event.
Right, that's what you mean by tabling,
Yeah.
is you'd be at an event or wherever on the street, and you
Yeah.
would have all your material and
Yep.
informational stuff and be talking to people
Exactly,
about
exactly.
the issues.
So we're going to
Cool.
train folks this Wednesday about how to do that most effectively.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a
Yeah.
great idea. So are there, that you're aware of, are you targeting like other endowments, and what about like the large foundations, even though like John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur have many, many billions of dollars?
Yeah.
Are some of those a little bit more progressive foundations, are they being approached also?
It's interesting. We haven't approached the McCarthy Foundation, but this issue is spreading to churches and to religious denominations because it's a moral issue. And so the Unitarian Universalist has committed to divest. And
Wow.
yeah, so it's spreading to religious denominations, but we haven't targeted the large foundations yet, but that's a really good plan.
Right, that's a next step.
Yeah, definitely
Wouldn't-
another place to
logical
look.
next step,
Another
yeah.
place to look.
It's amazing the sheer size. I remember reading Middlebury College's endowment is also multiple billions of
Yeah.
dollars. It's hard to imagine that a college or a university just has those kind of cash reserves.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's invested and it's working for them, and we need to make it work for us. And
Yeah.
as all living on the same planet, we need to put our money where our mouth is. Middlebury College, touts itself as a great environmental school, and it is, but it needs to invest with the same mindset as it touts the community around it.
Well, those are some of the built-in conflicts of interest that are tough to get around, and they're in all aspects of the economy and society and politics. There's just a lot of conflict of interest because on the one hand, you're feeding the some of the same kind of industries that are causing some of the problems.
Yep. I mean,
right.
green is a buzzword, and we have to make good on that if we're going to call ourselves a green institution or a green state even. If Vermont is going to call itself a green state, we need to put our money where our mouth is and start investing in a socially responsible way and an environmentally sustainable way.
Yeah, and expanding that Vermont brand beyond just little commercial products and whatnot, which is a great thing.
Vermont has the opportunity here to be the first to divest and to really set an
Right.
example for the nation. There are many cities and towns that have divested. I know I go to Smith College, and Northampton has committed to divest, as well as
Wow.
Seattle and Providence, Provincetown, San Francisco. Some of these big ones have committed to divest, and Vermont has the opportunity here to be the first state to divest.
Wow.
And that would be a huge step for the movement. Massachusetts is also looking to divest, and so
Also
we have
with
a
the
great
state
opportunity.
pension fund in
Also with the state
Massachusetts.
pension fund.
So are there other large funds that the state holds beyond just that state employees pension fund?
The state pension fund is the one that we're targeting right
Right.
now. Yeah,
Well, it's a big one.
definitely.
Well, thanks, Allie. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks so
And
much for
I
having
have
me.
extended an invitation for you to come back and keep us,
Awesome.
filled in on the progress and stuff and how things are going.
Great.
So, yeah, and we hope to have more 350vt.org people on the show at a later
Yeah.
date to talk to some of the hydrofracking and natural gas issues and pipelines and tar sands and
Yeah, tar sands is the other big campaign that 350 Vermont is running, so
right.
that'll be huge.
Yeah, that's a whole show.
It is a whole show, and
And it's critical stuff. So please tune in. And every week we are on at 8 o'clock on Sundays. Every 2 weeks it's a live show. And it is a call-in show, people, and that means you can call in and ask questions. And I know it will happen. So I'm always optimistic. So thank you very much. This has been another edition of Critical Mass TV. And we will see you next time. Thanks a lot. Have a great night.